Okay. Oh, here we go. Welcome to the Sports Hangover. I'm Michael Benatar, joined alongside J-Dog and a very special guest this week. We have somebody else from our Sports Hangover Super Contest. Thomas Shults is joining the show.
Welcome, Thomas.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to finally be back on the Sports Hangover.
It's been a while. Thomas, me and you used to do a show. What was our gambling show called back in like 2016, 17 era? What were we doing back then? What was it called? It was a good name.
Forgot. It was a good. I think it was
a
like
great name.
Tricking Aces or something like that. It was like it had to do with gambling, and then I also did the Hollywood Speakeasy for the Sports Hangover. So
that was a good one for the Hangover Network, which we're looking to rekindle. If anyone wants to make content for free for Hangover Network, you're welcome to do so.
We're always just like 8 years ahead of the time. What I was actually just watching before this. Clips of me and Jeremy on our YouTube page. If you go to YouTube, you can see clips of us from 10 years ago when we used to record on Google Meets to record our shows.
Wow.
That is a drop.
It was a
Mike, I love
time
looking at our old shows because it really shows my hairline through the years. So there's really like a collaborative, you get to see every year of what happened to me as we move back and then add it to it. I'm glad Thomas is here to talk NFL today because we were watching ball yesterday. Some wild endings last night. The place I want to start is the conspiracy theory against the Dolphins. What were the refs doing last night? 0 calls against the Eagles. They missed a face mask pass interference. The Dolphins had 10 penalties against them. The Eagles literally had 0 call on them.
Not only did they miss that, they missed a choke slam by the Eagles offensive line in the third quarter.
All right, 2 things. I saw that the referee that was reffing that game was a local Philadelphia fan, grew up there.
60 miles outside of Philly. That should be illegal, right? I should not do Dolphins 100%. Games. You should not do Eagles games.
I feel like they got to vet them a little better. Like if there's any bias towards another team, you got to push them a little because at some games, like they don't call any flags. And then all of a sudden you're getting a lot of flags. But I will say, Jeremy, you were coming off a really, really bad day of gambling. So I think it was just you're burning on the inside watching this game because I was watching it and I'm like, oh, Philly's got it. Once I saw 25 butt pushes, whatever it's called, I was like, they're winning the game. It was over
in their own territory. Do we think that's okay? The idea that every 4th and 1 they encounter anywhere on the football field is an automatic first down?
Well, I was gonna bring it in bullshit or believe, but we can do it right now. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Bullshit or believe time. Bullshit or believe time. Bullshit or believe. It was actually I misspoke. It was my big dick energy. That was going to be my big dick energy.
Play that too.
I can play that too. You want that? Hold on. I got it here. Thomas, I got a great new board here.
I love it.
Big Dick Energy, winner of the week.
So big dick energy to the tush push because I was so happy when I saw. I was just like, oh yeah, this is great. No one can stop it. They all know it's coming. They literally the Dolphins were literally lining up to try to stop it, and they couldn't stop it. And I don't want it banned. I want people to get better at it or better at stopping it because you can definitely stop it if you try because you can see other teams.
If you try, every team tries to stop the Eagles and they're not stopping them at all. They're undefeated on the pushes when it's 1 yard. I didn't realize Jalen Hurts could squat 600 pounds, and that's the reason he's able to do it, right?
There's video from him from Alabama doing that. So he's been able to do that. And to go back, this push goes all the way back to the early call, back when we were in high school when Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush were at USC with the Bush push, like
against Vince Young, right?
It goes all the way back. So these push plays happen all the time, and they are unstoppable.
I love it. It's my big dick energy of the week. I don't think they should ban it. I think people should try to stop it. And
is it a competitive disadvantage or is it the Eagles are so built for it? It's okay. Because I think you can argue it hurts the idea of football when you know every 4th and 1 is an automatic first down. Like you can go get a drink and go to the bathroom when they have a 4th down. When any other team, you're like, oh, what's going to happen here?
I do think though, it's like, we're saying like Jalen Hurts can squat 600 pounds. Listen, get this man in a weight room right now and do it. I don't think he could squat 600 pounds today. Okay.
He's got some big legs, Mike.
He does, but I just don't think I think it's like the offensive line, Jason Kelsey right up there pushing a lot of boys. They know how to do it. They use the leverage. They get down low. They push.
They do get low. I saw that. They got real low.
They get real low. So I love it. Keep doing it. And you saw who tried to do it a few weeks ago. Didn't like New York tried to do it, and there's no push on the tush, and there was Dak tried doing it, and no one was touching his butt.
A lot of people have tried to do it, and so I get the idea that it's not easy to do, but the Eagles are so built for it. Clearly, I don't like it after last night. Ask me next week. I might change my mind.
But yeah, the whole day, I want to throw out a stat of all the games. Last night, there was like more than 7 games that were all public games with more than 60% of the money on them. They all lost except for 2. And this is kind of like a gambling 101. Thomas, you've been gambling a while. Public games are games you should either stay off of, or if you know they're going to win, you can go for it. But the odds say it's not in your favor long term. And we saw this in the contest. Everybody mostly went 0-4, 0-5, 1-4. It was a slaughter.
Carnage in the pool this week.
Yeah. That's me. I went 1-4. I was sitting next to Jeremy and you most of the morning when we were at our friend's house watching.
I was in the hot tub for some of it.
You were there. When I got it there. But yeah. But Jeremy and I, J-Dog, we were sitting next to each other most of the time. And the 3 games that we thought would have been locks this week for us, we went over 3 on.
That was the Browns. That was the Bucks. And
that was the Browns, the Bucks, and
do you want me to list all the public games real quick? We have 49ers with 86% of the money. They're playing tonight. I put money on Minnesota. Bucks with 84%, Raiders with 83%, Bills with 80, Packers with 78, Rams with 76, Browns with 74, Lions with 73. And the only 2 that covered were the Seahawks with 70% of the money and Eagles with 66% of the money, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Vegas corrected the last couple of weeks. The first few weeks of the year, if you were betting along the public, you were going 4-1, 5-0. And like we saw it in our pool, you guys both had some great weeks. Everyone at the top was going 4-1 like every week. This was unsustainable, and we knew it. And it came crashing down 2 weeks ago when the 49ers, the Bills, and the Eagles, 3 of the best teams in the league, all lost or could have lost. And then this week was another example, right? Like only the Seahawks, I think, are like the one team that showed up of all the public bet games.
Well, there's another stat that came out in the game. So for the Cardinals won the turnover battle. They won 3-0 and not as 9-point dogs. They got the ball 3 times. And there's a stat that's saying teams with as a 7-point dog or higher who are +3 in the turnover battle were 165-6 against the spread entering today. So that's how crazy the game was. Seahawks should not have won that. Gino's still sleeping at the wheel. So I would say if you're looking to fade a team, fade Seahawks this week.
I thought Gino played much better at home, in his own bed, sleeping in his own bed, not coming off the bye anymore. He had a few touchdowns. DK was out. Your boy was out.
I know,
and they still win the game. I don't think you should be upset with Gino after that.
I'm not upset with Gino. I'm just saying it was a weird week. And I think it's just like, look, it was 2010. You're going to look at the box scores, and this week you're going to bet on a game, and you're going to look and you're like, oh, should I take Seattle against Cleveland this week? Maybe not, but it was a weird game. So any other game?
Yeah, the refs had a bad day across the board. Apparently the refs called 2 late penalties against the Colts. Mike, me and you, I saw your Tesla on the 405. We were departing at the end of this game. We were not watching it. Maybe Thomas, maybe you were still there. I don't know. But apparently the Colts got screwed to allow the Browns to go down the field and score that touchdown late.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
And then Kenny Pickett on a 4th down late in the game, his knee goes down right away on a QB sneak. Talk about the opposite of the Bush push, of the Jalen Hurts Philly brotherly push, whatever we're calling it. Like Kenny Pickett's the opposite of that, because that man's knee went down the moment he took the snap on a crucial 4th and 1 to secure the game. So clearly not to the line to gain. So clear, yet the Rams had no timeouts left, which means they couldn't challenge it themselves because they couldn't lose a timeout if you don't have one to burn. And so they couldn't even look at it, even though it was so clear. And the Rams literally lost the game. I mean, the Steelers took 3 knees after that. The officiating had a terrible, terrible week, and we need to start looking into this across the board, Mike, because it leads me to what happened with your running back against me in fantasy football, Bijan Robinson. Again, more sketchiness going on in the NFL.
It was weird.
People are betting these games. People are playing fantasy football with this guy. He was sick, hurt, migraines, whatever it turned out to be. We never knew. He got 1 carry in the 4th quarter, and it's like, where is the ethicalness of the NFL? All these officiating blunders. We're lying about starting running backs not being available, yet we're served DraftKings ads and FanDuel ads and all the things. It's like, at least bring some integrity to the game if you're going to force us all to bet.
I saw that tweet saying the NFL is looking into Bijan not playing because it was not reported before the game. Now, I feel like they just suited him up not to get a fine or something because he played 1 snap, right? It was like a minute left.
Like late in the game.
Yeah, it was a minute left. Let's put him in. Let's get a fine. It was a little weird because if I knew As you know, I'm a big Fantasy Pros guy that automates my whole entire system of fantasy. It's working out.
You love fantasy football so much, you have hired a virtual assistant essentially to take care of your fantasy managing.
He would have been swapped out immediately, and he was not. He didn't get any points, and I still might beat you, Jeremy. It's up to tonight for I don't know one of those guys, right? Who's playing right now? And
you're up 25 points. I have 2 Vikings. I'd rather have 2 49ers, but I have 2 Vikings. Hawkinson and Addison. We'll do the last night thing, but I didn't beat you. I didn't beat you on Monday Night Football. We now know. Hawkinson did not have a good game.
This is reverse mojo. This is reverse. I'm thinking Minnesota's actually going to have a really good game tonight. I think they're going to beat.
I agree with you.
They're going to win. I agree. You both think they're going to win the game?
Yes, because Debo's out and
Trent Williams is out.
Trent Williams is out.
McCaffrey is doubtful, right? With that abdominal
game time decision.
I don't like
it keeps changing. It keeps changing.
That man is on the field warming up right now.
Is he on the field warming up?
Right.
I think he's out there.
No.
I want to talk about one of my best bets of the week of last week. I took the Bears, and no one liked it. I think I was the only one that took Bears last week. Bears Raiders. I took my boy Tyson Bagnet, Division II superstar, came out on the field and won the game.
His last game in Division II was against the Colorado School of Mines, and he lost and threw 2 interceptions in that game. And that's the last time he ever started. How did this happen?
I saw a report that he beat out PJ Walker to be the backup at Chicago Bears. Now, there could be 2 things here. Either the Chicago Bears are really bad at looking at QBs and seeing if they're good or not, because they have 2, we could questionably say, not great quarterbacks there in Justin Fields and Tyler Bagnet. And they got rid of PJ Walker. And we saw PJ Walker last week, not this week, the week before, play really well.
No, he did it again. The Browns came back and won that game. He's 2-0.
Deshaun just laid on the floor and kind of gave up and was like, take me out of the game. But
Deshaun was standing on the sideline also of this week's game as if he was being held out for some reason. So
I think that we're calling that a benching, Thomas. I think he was actually benched.
No,
I think
he was cleared from the concussion. He was cleared from it.
Oh, he didn't play. Something's up with him. He's just trying to get out of there, I think. Because the Browns organization, I don't think, is operated very well. Weird organization.
PJ Walker.
A lot of organizations that aren't.
Chargers fan. Would you like to talk about your own team on that?
Yeah, listen, tell us about the Chargers.
The Chargers, I knew were going to be a shit show when I saw Taylor Swift was going to be attending the game. So you knew that the energy at Arrowhead was already there. I took Kansas City this week. That's one, how much faith I have in the Chargers right now. 2, the defense is atrocious. Brandon Staley needs to go. He listens to the numbers too much and doesn't listen to logic. Last week against Dallas, he took a 4th and 1 on the 20-yard line, and instead of taking the 3 points, he goes for it and loses out. And guess how much the Chargers lost to the Cowboys by?
How much?
3 points. 2 points.
Yikes.
Are we sure it's all coaching and not just Herbert? Because I feel like at some point we have to blame Herbert. Because I'm
not saying that. I'm not saying Justin Herbert's not at fault for some of the things here, but a lot of the losses for the Chargers since Herbert's taken over has come down to defense.
Yes, they've been scoring some points, but it does seem like we should start blaming him and not just the coaching, because they have all these games. And we remember last year when the season was about to start, we're like, man, this division is going to be crazy. We got Russell Wilson on the Broncos. We got Herbert.
Derek Carr.
Who else was Derek Carr for the Raiders? This is the powerhouse. And it was just a mess. Everything was a mess. So I don't know. All I know is that
don't take Victory Monday away from Russ like that. Okay. You've been crushing Russ so long. He wins twice a year at this point.
It's well deserved. It's well deserved. No. It's well deserved. Russell is done. He's washed. I was one of the guys that said to Mike when Russ went to Denver, I thought it was going to be a good change for Russ. I was on board the Russ train.
Everybody did.
3 games into that season, 3 games into the last season, I immediately apologized to Mike. I was like, this guy looks awful.
Yeah, Russ is
somehow
bad.
Mike and Pete Carroll were the only 2 people in the world who knew that Russ would fall off, but that's exactly what happened. I want to go back to the Chargers for a second. So a few things. Schefter reported this morning they definitely explored removing Staley last season. Schefter also hinted that normally at this time of year there's always a coach being fired. He reminded me Frank Reich in Indianapolis last year fired midseason. Carolina got rid of Matt Rule in his big contract middle of last season. I think he's hinting Staley might be 1 loss away. Is my interpretation of Schefter's report.
We've also already seen one coach who was rumored to be on the hot seat taken off that with Bill Belichick getting his extension this past weekend. officially.
We can still trade him. We can still trade him.
But I would say if it's not Staley, it's got to be. It would have been Bill probably, honestly, but we'll see what's going on. There's also
first coach fired. No one's been fired yet. It's been a weird season.
Aren't you on that bet? You're always on that, Mike.
I didn't bet it this year. This year we didn't do a lot. I don't like the long, not the long shots, but like season long bets. It really ties up the money. I like the week to week gambling. Maybe do some teasers here and there.
Of course.
But
I just have one more Chargers question for the Chargers fan. So I posed this to Mike last week, and he actually agreed with me. I was a little bit surprised. My whole Dolphins loving life, we've always never had a quarterback. And even once we have Tua, we all felt like we passed on Justin Herbert, and that was a terrible thing. Now, Thomas, it's almost like Tua might be better than Justin Herbert. So bullshit or believe, who would you rather have going forward? Is it Tua or is it Herbert? And you have to be honest with the audience.
That's a really tough question. I would still take Justin Herbert over Tua because at any moment, Tua could get thrown to the ground, get a concussion, and his career is likely over. So whereas Justin Herbert,
so is my fandom.
He's had some injuries. He's had his broken ribs. He has his broken fingers right now. I think he's still just a piece or two away on the defense from the Chargers winning. Tua has a great team around him, but as we were talking about, you lose one tool on that Dolphins offense, and the Dolphins are likely a mediocre, if not a playoff team.
Wow.
I know. I was told on every network today that they were frauds. Every single network I saw, the Dolphins are frauds. But getting back to the Chargers, I just think we have to stop making excuses for Herbert. You're right. The left finger. The left finger is not affecting him passing. And last year he had the broken ribs. He couldn't throw deep. I get it. I think at some point the guy has to be responsible. And to your point, Mike, we have to start looking at Herbert a little differently because he came out in that second half. Did they score a point in the second half yesterday? Like, he's supposed to be there. He's paid enough to be that guy against Mahomes to score with him. He kind of did in the first half. Come out of the locker room and you just can't do it anymore. You have to be more consistent. I think that's like the thing with Herbert. He's very inconsistent.
I have 3 bullshitter believes if you want to run down them real quick.
Yes.
Just fun ones. We don't have to play the sound again, but the bullshitter believe here, I have 3 of them. I like them. 1, bullshit or believe, have the Steelers been sandbagging, and will they win the Super Bowl? Do you bullshit or believe that? Do you think they've been so bad? Do you think Kenny Pickett's just like turning it up? Because after yesterday, aren't they 4-2 now? Right? They're coming on. They're winning some games. Is this a team that's just kind of like slowly gets it together? Kind of like, maybe the New York Giants when they beat Tom Brady, like some team you don't expect to get in that all of a sudden gets in. Is that team?
I'm going to call bullshit on the Steelers. Mutual friend is not even high on the Steelers, really. He wouldn't even go to SoFi yesterday for the game.
Wouldn't go.
So,
it's an emotional hedge.
You'd rather go to Santa Clarita. Big ask.
So, no, I think the Steelers have some talent. Kenny Pickett, though, I have questions there behind under center there for him. I think Mike Tomlin's era is coming to a slow close in Pittsburgh.
Whoa. Breaking news.
That's just my feeling. I think he has had some losing seasons. The Steelers also,
has he ever had a losing season?
I don't think he's ever had a losing season.
Last year was close. But
it wasn't a losing season.
I don't think he's ever had a losing season, but it is a real season.
But if you watch them, they're inconsistent play. Their defense is lacking. I just think that it might be time for a shakeup in Pittsburgh.
What do you think, J-Dog?
Where's Mike Tomlin going if he's leaving Pittsburgh? Because that man is so in demand. I need to know.
Yeah, I feel like he's there. He's gonna stay there. He's like,
I think
he's the organization. It's like Bill Belichick. Like, you're not firing him until they have like a terrible, terrible season. Even with how they started, they're doing okay. That's why I'm like, hey, who knows? Super Bowl could be there.
I'm not saying this season. I'm saying in the next year or two, though, we could be possibly seeing the end of the Tomlin era.
Wow.
A few things on the Steelers. That's a hot take, and we're gonna keep you on the show in 2 years and bring you back when he's still winning championships there, just to see how that played out. When Tomlin is an underdog, you need to bet on the Steelers. That's like a stat. I don't know if it's an official stat, but they were plus 3.5 yesterday. I was on the Steelers all week. I see mutual friend on Saturday. He's like, we're going to lose. We're terrible. Of course, I get off them, and that's how my betting works right now. The other thing is, Mike, you said they're slow starters. They are the slowest starters because they are slow for the first 3 quarters of every game. And for some reason, in the 4th quarter of every game, Kenny Pickett's like, oh, shit, we're down 2 scores. Let me try for the first time. And their offense looks like a real NFL offense. The first 3 quarters, their offense looks like the Colorado School of Mines offense, right? They're not scoring. They're not moving it. It looks so hard. They make it look so hard. Like the Dolphins and Eagles, they can make offense look easy. the Steelers make it look so hard, but then the fourth quarter, it's like Kenny's allowed to throw it around and it just works better.
Do you think it's something like where he's like, well, it doesn't matter anymore. I'm just going to throw some like deep bombs and throw it out there, be more aggressive. And he's too scared to be aggressive early in the game. Cause that's what it seems
like. A psychological thing on Kenny.
Yeah.
Or does Matt Canada not let him do that? He's like, if you throw one deep ball before the fourth quarter, I will bench you so fast.
I don't think
that's the guy that needs to leave.
Yeah.
Canada.
That man doesn't talk to the team.
All right, Canada chants are everywhere, all over Pittsburgh.
Two more. Bullshit or believe. The Lions are not who we thought they were. They lost 6-38 to Baltimore. Or bullshit or believe, is Baltimore not really who we thought they are? Are they actually a bad team in disguise of a good team? I know it's a lot out there, but two different questions, because I feel like you see it every week, right? You see good teams beat bad teams beat good teams, kind of like the Buffalo Bills. You see them lose and then destroy the Dolphins. What's going on? Is this what we're seeing with the Lions? Like, are the Lions actually good? I guess that's the first question. Are the Lions good?
The place I want to start with the Lions is the Lions came into yesterday 5-1, very impressive across the board, solid wins like the Chiefs. They recently beat the Bucks and the Packers, but Vegas had them as a 2.5-point dog. So I was like, wait a second. Vegas knows that they didn't show up, or did like Vegas tell the Lions not to show up, or how did Vegas know the Lions wouldn't show up?
I don't know.
Not that it wasn't a close game. Like it could have been close, right? It could have been 20-17. They don't cover. And it's like, okay, that makes sense. The Lions literally didn't show up in that game. And that made no sense to me, how Vegas knew they wouldn't show up.
But how about this question? If you didn't look at the lines and you just looked at the games, would that change your decision on which team you would pick? Because I feel like sometimes the lines skew your thought into thinking, oh, well, I shouldn't take this team. Now, we haven't seen I feel like Baltimore has not truly been tested until they played the Lions, but this is a game. It's like, does it skew your thought? Because when you're just looking at the box scores, like I'm looking at last week's box score, and you could probably be like, well, the Patriots always play the Bills well, like maybe they won't beat them, but like this is a team maybe they should cover, but I don't know the spread. And I wonder if you play the game like that, does that change the way you think about it? Because you kept mentioning the spreads. You're like, this doesn't make sense. And I agreed. Last week was a hard week. But would that change your mindset going into it?
I don't know if it necessarily changed my mind. No.
It wouldn't
because the Lions should have been the better team, right? I thought the Lions would win the game. We've watched Jared Goff and the Lions go on the road this year and be a really good team. In the past, that hasn't been the case. In the past, the home road splits for Goff and his controlled forward field is much different than going on the road in the elements. What I didn't realize is he went to Tampa the week before and it was 80 degrees and sunny and there were no elements. And then he went to Baltimore and the wind was swirling and it was 50 degrees. So there's all these factors to take into it. So I think I'm still right on the idea that Jared Goff struggles on the road. It just needs some elements to mess with.
But if it wasn't as recent, if you were blinded coming in to this season, you knew Jared Goff, you knew who he was, would you still bet the way you did yesterday and saying, we know Lamar's a better quarterback than, well, supposedly. I mean, the stats might show Jared Goff's actually doing pretty well. But I think that's almost like that weird recency bias where we always see these teams like, the Lions are destroying me. They're taking me down. And you kind of get, Jeremy, you kept mentioning it the week before, how you're like, I always bet against them. I'm betting with them this week. And the one week you bet against them. They beat you.
They covered. And then I was like, fuck this. I'm wrong. I don't understand betting anymore. I need to change my ways. And now I'm just very confused because I changed my ways and I'm still wrong. And it's just a dark place.
You're in a deep, dark hole of 0 and 10 in the last 2 weeks. Yeah.
Deep, dark place.
Deep, dark place for sure. All right. I have one more bullshit or belief. Is Kansas City winning the Super Bowl?
No.
Okay.
No, and that's not from a Charger perspective. I think Kansas City is a great team, but we've seen great teams play well in the regular season, and then they get to the playoffs, and there's always a surprise team that can show up. I don't think Kansas City will – I think they'll get to the AFC Championship game and lose.
J-Dog?
It's very Taylor Swift dependent. If she's still around in the box doing choreographed high fives with Brittany Mahomes at the Super Bowl, you can crown him right now. You can give him the trophy. There's of course. I mean, that was Taylor Swift and Brittany Mahomes are in the lab, Mike. They're in the lab cooking up celebrations.
I know.
So here's the thing about that though, J-Dog. Taylor Swift will actually be in Japan on her international tour during the AFC Championship week and the Super Bowl.
So you bet against Kansas City.
So they'll get to the AFC Championship, like you said, and then the L's start.
Yeah. Now, the biggest thing, Jackson Mahomes was there. And I don't know
who was on house arrest, right?
I thought someone's going to jail.
There was like some weird stuff going on with him. I don't know how he made it there. And he was I think purposely standing right behind just to make sure that people knew that he was there with it. Now, I don't know if he was allowed to go anywhere near Taylor Swift.
Well, he made his
they
way
high
very
fived.
close.
They high fived.
Wait, Jackson, they high fived
on the Kelsey touchdown. She turned around and high fived him. Maybe it was a pity.
I don't think she realized who that was, though.
She's not on TikTok. I thought we all knew.
I guarantee she knows everybody in that box. There's no way Taylor Swift is going in a box where she does not know who those people are, right? Like it seems.
I meant during the high five. I don't think she saw it was Jackson Mahomes during the high five.
I don't think Jackson Mahomes should be allowed in NFL boxes, especially not in Taylor Swift's box. He's offended enough people. True. He's committed crimes. He's not the one we want in the box with Taylor.
Do you want to talk gambling this week? You got any J-Dog takes on? What do you want to do?
I have a J-Dog takes on. Yes.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
J-Dog takes on.
Like this team I'm about to take on, Mike and Thomas, this is a team and a quarterback that had high expectations, that had a whole plan in place. They had this idea that we have a superstar quarterback and we're going to let him go, but we have a whole plan and everything's going to be okay. And they kept telling us it's going to be okay. And they trained this quarterback to be the guy for a long time. And so far, their quarterback sucks, and it's Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. And I'm taking on Jordan Love. I am taking on LaFleur, who should be on the hot seat, possibly the guy who should be fired first of anyone. The Packers were a once proud organization. They are all over Sunday night and Monday Night Football. They're on prime time all the time. They have watchable games. They still have skill players. Aaron Jones, I know it took 7 weeks to come back from the hammy, but you finally made it back. You go to Denver, you can't lose to Sean Payton. It's like every year there's like a team you can't lose to, and Sean Payton and Russ is that team, and you're embarrassing if you do. Like more embarrassing than the Bears situation, than the Raiders situation. The Broncos are down so bad right now. The Packers were coming off a bye. Jordan Love had like 100 yards passing in the first half. Do better. This is the NFL. It's like we can't all be like the Steelers when good offenses do exist.
I want to add one other thing to that too. They also let Aaron Rodgers' favorite target go to the Raiders when they were in Oakland, and no one gave a shit about the Raiders in Oakland. So they were not going to the games. They lost their star wide receiver to a team that no one was going to watch. So that is just another reason to question what's going on in Green Bay.
Do you think it's just like a salary cap thing where he's cheap, he can kind of get us by, we'll see what it is, and we'll move on if we need to? They did basically already knew like the succession plan of Aaron Rodgers is Jordan Love, and we're going to stick to this decision because that's what we do, and we will go draft somebody if we need to draft somebody, and that was it. And it doesn't, because they're not like a flashy team, right? They don't make trades, right? They draft. That's like their thing. They
don't make free agent signings. Exactly. They draft and they mold. But think about it like this. He was behind Rodgers for 3 years. They watched him in practice for 3 years. Mike, what if for 3 years, me and you, and not Thomas because he's great, but me and you and someone else did a podcast, the three of us, but they were practice podcasts for 3 years. And we had 3 years of tape on someone. I could easily tell you if they're going to be good at podcasts or not good at podcasts. That's what LaFleur should be doing with Jordan Love. He should have been able to tell very clearly he's either going to be good at quarterback or bad at quarterback. And he said he's going to be good, and it turns out he's bad. And people need to pay for that. Not just Jordan Love. It's not all his fault. It's that whole organization's failure that needs to be responsible.
Jeremy, if we were in charge, I feel like we would know immediately. Like if I know if somebody's going to be good or bad at a podcast, you would know in the first minute of the podcast if it's not
like
going to be good or bad.
Right?
You would look at Jordan Love and be like, you are officially out. We are moving on and we're getting somebody else. I want some fire. Like Tyler Bagnet, that man has fire in him. Sam Howell has some fire in him. Maybe he's not going to be great, but at least he has that passion that he wants to win. Jordan Love does not seem to care. He's like, I'm fucking here. I am.
I remember when Jordan Love was drafted and the news was coming out that he was going to be taken high in the draft. I went, who is this kid? He's drafted out of Utah State. Utah State plays no one. Jeremy, you watch college football as much as I do. Everyone knew the Packers were going to draft a star quarterback because they knew the Rodgers era was coming to an end. No one was anticipating Jordan Love.
It's true. No one was. Speaking of watching college football, by the way, someone else who's down bad is Caleb Williams. At some point, you have to beat teams who aren't very good when you are the supposedly next coming of Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Andrew Luck, right? What? I know, Mike, you weren't watching.
I know. I wasn't watching.
A Saturday night, got home from the bar. I was still on a little bit. Thomas, I know you were out late Saturday night. I know you were still out during this game. But I got to see the end of it. And Caleb Williams was trying to mount a comeback. But again, at some point, we need to point some fingers at him. USC has talent on the field. I know Lincoln Riley's to blame. I know guys are to blame. If you are the next great NFL quarterback, you need to beat a team like Utah at home to continue going on your national championship run.
But Utah is also considered one of the best teams in the country, and they have been since Kyle Williamson took over at that program. So
they are good, and they have USC's number. I need more from Caleb. He's not showing me that he's the number one runaway guy right now. And it's like, if he's not that guy, then is he not going to go number one? Is Drake May going to go number one? Could the Bears not take Caleb Williams? And it opens up this whole Pandora's box that wasn't supposed to be any questions because Caleb's supposed to be the guy.
How about this? It's probably better for him not to go first overall. I feel like the expectation on first overall, like Bryce Young, it's not good. I feel like it's in your head. Bryce Young, he's done. That man is not going to be a quarterback much longer.
Wow.
He's small.
He's not good. He's not a
tiny.
good quarterback. And I feel like it's a lot of pressure. You're first overall. Look at Brock. That man was last drafted. There was no pressure. It's just like, if you fail, we already know you suck. But then if you're a little good, it's like, wow,
Listen,
you can throw the
speaking
ball.
Of Brock, I know that they're on Monday Night Football. We don't know exactly what happened in
Yes.
that game, but Brock was outplayed by PJ Walker last week, Mike. So
Mhm.
before we do the whole Brock thing,
Brock
can we
is
see
good.
Brock without his toys? Can we see Brock win a game without Debo and Kittle and McCaffrey?
Tonight.
McCaffrey's back.
Bet the over 250 yards on Brock tonight.
Did you say the Vikings are going to win? So are
Yeah. It's going to be a shootout. They're going to
No defense.
The Vikings are going to
Minnesota's
win by like let's say what's the line to what was the line last week?
6.5.
6.5.
6.5.
Yeah, they'll win by 6.
All right, so let's get to some upcoming betting. I know we have Thomas here to be the expert because I'm not allowed to be the betting expert at this point.
No.
I'm doing so bad, and
Let
I
me-
accept my fate.
Let me play
I need
my
5-0 weeks.
Let's hit it.
If money talks, then I got a lot to say. I'm on the grind trying to make $100,000
All right.
a day. We getting that up.
What
I
a
love that
drop.
one. I know. I don't know where I found it. It's great. All right. This is a big week. You guys were terrible last week. I was
What
pretty
were you?
bad.
Not terrible.
I was 3-2.
I mean,
It's pretty good.
Average.
60, if you're doing 60% every week, you're doing okay. That is a winning week. Jeremy, things are not looking good. Thomas, I feel like you're still pretty strong in our contest.
I dropped because I had a 1-4 week fall after a 2-3 week. So I dropped.
Okay, where are you? You're ninth, tied for ninth place with a few other people. You're 19 and
Mutual
16.
friend is there. Yeah.
Well, listen, mutual friend has been out of town and he keeps making these calls after we talk for 5 hours a week. He decides to make a call and stick to 2 games that we did not talk about, and he loses those games, which no surprise. This is a tough week. I have a few feels. I wanted to see where your head was at and see if my feelings going the right way. Because usually you guys pinpoint what side not to bet, and I'm going to try to convince you to bet with me on my side.
so
That's
this is
what
where
I'm
you
doing
fade
this
us, right?
This is where he
Yeah,
fakes us,
you
yeah.
tell me, and I'll fade you
Yeah,
on
we're here
that.
to
I
help.
have 5 games I've looked at that I've targeted this week. That early lines could change; they're not locked yet. But I have 5 games I semi like.
Okay.
What do you have any games, or do you want to? Do you just want me to tell you the game?
I'm lost myself.
I have
not
some
giving-
ideas, but
I have
I would
thoughts,
like
but
to
yeah.
hear first.
All right. I'll jump into a game. What do you think about Houston at Carolina? Carolina is getting plus 3.5 here. Where would you
That's
go with this?
interesting. That's interesting because CJ Stroud has been surprisingly probably the best rookie quarterback in the National Football League this year. I like Houston in this actually. I just think CJ Stroud is continuing to play well. And to your point earlier, I don't like Bryce Young. I think and what's going on in Carolina. So something's not right in Charlotte. Everything's going right in Houston, and they're building up to something special.
Both
Maybe.
teams coming off a bye. Both young quarterbacks had the week off. I don't know where Bryce Young was, but CJ Stroud was a guest picker on game day. So I don't know if we
Oh.
should dock him for being in Columbus on that.
You know, I don't like those extra activities where you're out doing
I
something.
know.
No, you don't.
The
worries
week
me a little.
before, Baker was a guest picker at the Oklahoma game. They came back and lost after the bye.
Ooh, I didn't know. That's good. I'm gonna make that in my notes.
Are you on the Panthers? There's no way you're on the Panthers.
I'm not on the Panthers. So I wrote down if the line moves to 3, I'll probably go with Houston because I don't like that 3.5 because this game I feel like could end close. They're 2 rookie teams. Things are happening. I do like Houston here. And then these are initial feels, but I would initially go with Houston. And that's where I
I
would
agree.
lean.
I'm not seeing any value there, though.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I haven't put all the numbers into my little data sheet if there's any value on it yet, but I'm gonna guess there's a little bit on Carolina just because that 3.5 is sitting there and it looks kind of nice. What's another one? The one game that was really weird to me this week was Atlanta at Tennessee. Tennessee, a home dog with a +1.
That line's going to keep moving in Atlanta's direction because today Tennessee makes a trade. They send a safety away.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw last night. The Eagles had 2 like backup safeties playing deep. They couldn't challenge the line of scrimmage at all, so they needed someone in there. They got the Titans safety. Titans might be fire sailing. Look out for Ryan Tannehill trade to follow. Could a Derrick Henry trade, a DeAndre Hopkins trade? I think that line is moving in the Falcons' direction.
When's the trade?
I agree.
deadline?
2 weeks, I believe.
It's in October, so it's in a week or 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I looked at it and I said, what was going on? And I guess that's what was going on. I didn't know if they actually do a fire sale, I'd be terrified of this game. But I thought immediately you should play Tennessee here because it's your +1 at home.
So you're saying you're getting value. People think the fire sale is coming, but they don't make the fire sale. They only got rid of a safety. Tannehill's back off the bye, and you're going to go Titans.
That's what I would do. Yeah, just because you initially look at it, you're like, why is Atlanta doing this? Like, is Atlanta that good? Like, yeah, they beat the Bucks, but like Tennessee, I mean, Tannehill's pretty bad, but it's a bad quarterback matchup for sure. It's a bad game to watch. Do not watch this game.
Don't watch it.
No.
What do you think, Thomas? Any
You know,
games like that game?
I don't like that game. A game that I was just in New Orleans and I watched the Thursday night Jaguars Saints game.
Wow. Superdome. Shout out.
It was a great game.
How was the Superdome?
It was huge. And
Never been
we
there.
should all go there, Mike. I know you're not big on going to games, but
It's a big
the
tailgate. guys.
vibe in New Orleans for a football game is beyond none. The city shuts down. They throw over 400 parties a year in the city of New Orleans alone. There's 365 days a year. Every football game day, home or away, there's a party. That party did not translate on the field for the Saints. The Jaguars are a good team. So one game I'm watching is Steelers-Jaguars this week. Trevor Lawrence looked great. ETN looked great. The line is right now Jaguars -1.5. I have a feeling it opened at 1.5. It's probably moved already. So I'm looking at the Jaguars. That is a game that I'm considering taking this week, and I consider taking last week even. But I don't like Thursday night games. I don't
either. You hate to go 0-1 and sit on it Friday to Saturday.
The Jags
I'm
have
like-
not.
I like our friend Andrew.
The Jags
Yeah,
have not done. Have they done a bye yet after all those trips to?
The Jags just keep
London?
on playing. I don't know who they
keep
pissed
on
off in
playing.
the league office. They just keep on playing. At least they get like 10 days since the last game. They played last Thursday, so
True.
they got through that. They get the long one. Thomas, I love the idea that you had your eyes on them. Me and Mike have not seen an NFL play in person this year, but you had your eyes on the Jags, and you're telling us to go that direction. But what I would say is what I said earlier. The Steelers are a home dog. Mike Tomlin as a dog, you do not bet against Tomlin as a dog.
I agree. I would lean Steelers here. You got to play Steelers against the Jags. Steelers just like they're a weird team. It's a terrible, like you don't want to do it. You don't want to bet it, but you have to. You have to take the bad feeling games. That's where you got to go.
The Steelers tend to win the games that they're not supposed to and lose the games they're supposed to win. They got blown out by the Texans. Like, what was that about? But that's just how the Steelers
I know. Another game I don't want to play, but I feel like I have to play is Baltimore at Arizona after Baltimore had that game playing Lions.
Yeah.
Arizona's getting 8.5 at home. Listen, Arizona isn't like the best team, but they can kind of hang in there. They turned over some balls against Seattle. I don't know what this game will be like. This might be like, oh yeah, Baltimore actually is that good and beats them 40-0, or it could be a close game. It could be like 20-24 or something. I don't know.
This is a game where the Baltimore Ravens are scoring 171 points so far this year. The Cardinals have given up 182 points. So you know it's going to be a high-scoring affair.
How many has Baltimore
agree with
given up?
you. 97.
Whoa.
So
big difference.
I do think that
we did not talk about this. That reminds me. I want to talk about Thomas's strategy for the contest. Before you get into your deep dive on Baltimore, I want to hear your strategy because, like I said, we were sitting on the couch, we were watching football yesterday, and I said, Thomas, come with something other than vibes. Everybody's coming with vibes. I want to know what your strategy is. Do you have like a document? Do you have a piece of paper that you just write notes on? I want something tangible that you can give to our loyal listeners and maybe competitors in the super contest this year. What are you doing to win games? That's what I would like to know.
it's all vibes. I'm
Oh my.
More buzz. Everyone
no,
headbutt.
no, it's really not. Honestly, I pay attention to Shefty. I pay attention to Rappaport. I pay attention to
But hold
the
on.
injury reports. And
Not everyone does, so that's a start.
That's good. That's good. It's good data points.
I do watch the lines as well. One strategy I do is unless I have a really good, strong feeling about a game, I do not vibes. I don't go near the Thursday night. So that's a strategy right there. I don't go near Thursday night. I almost went this past Thursday, but otherwise,
I feel like that's a rule. Like playing Thursday, that's a rule. That is a rule you live by if you don't want to play it. I'm tempted. This week I'm tempted to play Bucks on Thursday night, by the way.
It's definitely tempting, especially how the Bills have looked the last few weeks. It's just their defense.
Good Josh is around every corner, Mike. You don't want to hear it, but
I know.
Good Josh is lurking. He's right here.
What else are you using to give you like, hey, these are my picks this week? Are you writing down notes? Do you have an Excel sheet? Do you have a Notion board? Do you have an Apple Docs somewhere that you can share with us? What do you got?
I'm not sharing shit, but it is one thing is I do have some notes when I look at the schedule. I go, okay, this is a West Coast team going to the East Coast this week, and they're playing they're playing the early game. 9 times out of 10, it looks like that a West Coast team is going to lose that game. I.e., the Chargers this year, being a Chargers fan, opened up on the road and lost. So
Rams at Cowboys Sunday,
Rams
10 a.m.
at Cowboys, yeah, exactly. So there is a definitely West Coast vibe traveling this week.
Okay.
I will not be taking that game.
Okay, so you're not taking Rams at Dallas because you think the travel. Now, first of all, West Coast to mid country is only 2 hours.
2 hours. It's still a 2 hour time difference.
2 hour flight though.
Mike, your wife does a lot. She comes home tired. I know she does.
I come home tired just traveling 1 hour to a different. You go to Denver and you're exhausted. You're like, what's going on? I get it, but I think it's like consistent travel. I think is a bigger factor than just a day of travel. Like, listen, Tampa has to fly really far. Seattle has to fly really far. They travel extra far for most places, right?
That's true. But most of these teams that travel don't spend a week in the East Coast. It's not like the Rams are going to go to Dallas on Wednesday. They're leaving Friday.
Thomas, I need you to be
an adjustment.
I want you to be our stat guy. I want you to pull the numbers on travel and if it correlates with wins for the games. And just go back to the last 7 weeks. And if that's actually a thing, I will factor that in to my data sheet of
I'm sure it's a thing. There was a stat forever on West Coast teams playing that one Eastern start was not good. I don't think you can say the same thing about going the other way because it's not the same because you play later in the day. You don't play at 10 a.m. local, but that was definitely always a stat.
This year, I will go and look at all the West Coast to East Coast or Central teams to East Coast and get the records and get it for you.
That's what I will do that. I want to know if that's what's because that's the weird thing. If that's actually something that's actually going to change the way we look at the game, that would make me factor it in a lot. I would agree that the travel is a factor, but like traveling to London is a factor because that is hard on the body. And we saw that like Buffalo couldn't beat Jags because Jags were there for 2 weeks. But like who's traveling? Who's a big traveler? Like Rams, Dallas, that's not too far. Houston, Tampa, the Buffalo, not that far either. I guess it would be maybe like Chicago to Chargers this week. That would be maybe the bigger
late
travel
game though, so it shouldn't hurt your body clock as much.
Yeah, so it's tough. And then you factor in like, well, when did they get there? Because Baltimore got to London a little early, and I wanted Baltimore over whatever because they were there a few days earlier. So maybe it depends on when you arrive to the city instead of the full travel. But
guys, we can answer this question in real time because listeners of this podcast know more than we do. They know the result of the 49ers Vikings game on Monday Night Football. Let me tell you something about the 49ers. Last week, they were in the Midwest. They were in Cleveland. This week, they're back in Minnesota. Did they spend the week there? No, they went all the way back. And now they're back on the East Coast. So they just heard our discussion, and they know if the 49ers came out and dominated, then travel's not as big a deal. If the Vikings were close, if the Vikings covered, if the Vikings took it to the last possession, travel probably has a really big deal.
Okay, so you're saying if all things are correct, we're saying Minnesota should lose the game.
That's what we're saying.
Tonight. We're recording this.
I'm not saying that. No, the Niners have to go back and forth. So if travel matters, the Vikings might have a real shot tonight.
You mean 49ers should lose
the
game
49ers? Yes, because they're going back and forth from San Fran to the Midwest. So it's a real time application.
So right now, I just looked at
he's crunching numbers live on the pod. I love it.
So
appreciate it.
If you need more time, I got another game we can talk about. This was
it's fine. This is the first 2 of the first 3 weeks of the season. So there was no West Coast to East Coast week 1. I made a mistake with the Chargers there because they lost to J-Dogs.
First week doesn't count because it's technically not really travel because there's no tired. You're not tired yet.
Week 2, the Chargers traveled to Tennessee and lost in overtime.
So you're just doing this to Chargers.
That was a bad loss.
Chargers bad loss.
Okay.
The Seahawks went to Detroit and eked out a win in overtime against the Lions.
Won in Detroit. That was weird.
Week 3, the Rams went to the Bengals and lost on Monday Night Football.
Okay.
Ooh, Rams in the Midwest. California teams go to Midwest. Look out.
Midwest was it? And that was in a dome.
That was in Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati. Outside. But Joe Burrow was a little injured. There's a lot of factors.
Bengals still won.
Yeah.
I think travel matters is what we're learning.
Week 4, the Rams went to Indy and won in overtime. So they're
wasn't clean.
Wasn't clean. Nope. Vegas. Nope. So
maybe it's a factor.
So far.
Yeah. Maybe it's like back-to-back weeks of travel.
So it's extra impressive the Dolphins went all the way to LA and beat Thomas's Chargers, is what you're saying.
Look, I think if an East Coast team goes west,
100%.
It's actually a little better for the East Coast team also because they're already up. They have their energy. So
I agree.
Yeah,
it's like when Florida people come to California, it's okay, but it's when you go back to Florida, it really hits.
It's tough.
Exactly.
Well, here's one more game I kind of like. Cincinnati at San Francisco this week.
I love this game.
San Francisco is minus 5.5. Who do you like?
I haven't seen the Niners play this week, but I'm going to take Joe Burrow coming off the bye, getting right. That's a big underdog with that offense coming off.
That's what I thought too. I want to see how they play tonight. If McCaffrey's out this week or next week, I might not play him. There's a lot of injuries on San Francisco. We'll see how Brock is. Cincinnati coming off a bye, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So Bengals are plus 5.5 right now. I bet that comes down to like 3.5, 4.
Really?
Depending how the Niners play. Of course, if they blow out the Vikings, maybe not. But I think that comes down to 4.
This worries me. It worries me when I agree with you, Jeremy.
I know it does. Well, I'm a Burrow guy. So I buck the public when it comes to the Bengals. I've taken him several times this year. The other game I like, I have to listen to my own things. And I'm saying Goff is bad on the road. The Lions aren't real. One thing I have done a lot this year is when a team loses a game they're not supposed to, they bounce back. I did it with the Cowboys after they lost to the Cardinals. I took them and they won. The Lions are -8 on Monday night. I think they're going to be so mad about that Ravens game. Watching the tape this week, so mad. Who are the Raiders starting at quarterback? I don't know, but Hoyer was terrible. O'Connell's terrible. They might trade Devontae Adams. Like, look out for that. They might actually trade him away.
Wait, Raiders are Raiders playing Monday night? Is that what you're saying?
Raiders Lions Monday night.
Next week. Raiders. The 2 night games are actually 2 of the 3 night games are not the best because you have Raiders Lions on Monday night and then you have the Chargers and Bears on Sunday night. Which if flexing was allowed this early, I would flex the Chargers out of that Sunday night game right away.
Interesting. It's a tough one because if Hoyer's still in, I wouldn't want to touch the game. But Raiders are bad. Raiders are like bad.
Why wouldn't you bet against Hoyer if he was playing?
I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like I think these weird quarterbacks sometimes just like get it, and then all of a sudden, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the teams will sandbag themselves, right? Like where they're like, oh yeah, it's this. It's almost like how Cleveland came into this week and basically almost lost to Gardner Minshew. So that scares me a little. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's like just the Raiders, like backup quarterback.
Like Brian Hoyer just turned 38 years old. He is so old. You're allowed to fade him. It's okay.
Brian Hoyer backed up Tom Brady for most of his career. Like he's been in the league.
He didn't play much during all those years.
No. Yeah. All right. Okay. We'll see how it pans out. We'll see where the line goes. I have no feel on that game. Some games I just like don't have a vibe for. We vibe it out for the picks. So I have no vibe.
Yeah.
I thought you're the one who has a real strategy, Mike.
I do, but sometimes it's also like, okay, I know more about this team than this other team, and the numbers are saying this. So right now I have no perceived value on any of these games yet. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But I think I'm showing -10 for Detroit for power ratings. So it should be -10. And if it is 7.5, maybe I go that way.
There you go. Do you stay away from Monday night like you stay away from Thursday night, or does that not bother you as much?
It doesn't bother me as much, but I do like having my week complete, so I don't have to sit around on Monday night and wait.
Unless the
take
matchup is
another
like
L.
really intriguing, I tend to do the same thing. This Lions Raiders game, if Jimmy G is back, maybe I'll look into it. But right now, if Brian Hoyer's starting, I'm staying as far away from possible.
I'll also say Monday nights, Thursday nights, and Sunday nights are the most bet games. So it also could skew the line. Maybe you won't get as much value because so much money's coming on both sides of the teams instead of like a random midday Jacksonville, Pittsburgh. That could be just, you could see more value somewhere because the public's trying to get some value on the game and just will gamble on any line they want during the day.
Mike, that's a real stat we can use. Thank you for that.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
thank you, Mike.
You're actually helping us. We need
Good.
it.
You guys need it. You guys need the help. I'm not good. I'm just lucky.
You do a lot
That's
of
what-
research.
yeah.
It's okay. You don't go off vibes. We go off vibes and injury reports
know.
and travel.
I think that's it. You got anything else, Thomas? Any other insights for your gambling?
A hot take for the road, Thomas?
I would say the only other thing is the Saints are not a good football team. I mean,
You got eyes on that one.
Wow. Yeah.
yeah.
I think we knew
They're-
that.
Too. Ooh,
Well,
Dennis Allen
I-
fired. Should
Dennis
be fired.
Allen.
Right? That's what you're
should
saying.
be fired. Exactly. That's my hot take. It's not that it's the game. I'm staying away from the Colts Saints game next week, probably. But I think Dennis Allen is a person to be watching. He was leaving in Derek Carr most of the game. The fans were booing him. Fans were actually saying that all the players were trash and they don't trust the organization in New Orleans. So why not throw in Jameis when Derek Carr was out and Jameis was productive, and then they put Derek Carr back in and he's not making any throws. Alvin Kamara is frustrated. Michael Thomas is frustrated. That whole
Chris
Saints team
Olave
is-
owners are frustrated.
Yes, like it is just it's a dumpster fire in New Orleans, and Mardi Gras can't get here soon enough for those people.
That's a good one.
All right, guys. Well, good show. Check out the sportshangover.com. We got swag up there. Check out our TikTok page. I think it's the Sports Hangover. I'm not 100% sure. Our YouTube. Go to the Sports Hangover on YouTube. Just type it in. You'll find our page. You can backtrack 10 years, maybe 15. I'm not even sure how much.
We were so young. We were in college.
We're in college. Yeah, we were doing it.
Before we go, my new thing, Mike, is naming quarterbacks in the NFL that are better than Brock Purdy. Last week I told you it was PJ Walker. Today I'll leave you with this. Gardner Minshew is actually better than Brock Purdy.
We'll see tonight. We'll see. We'll see if that's actually true. Because I don't.
I decided yesterday on the couch with Thomas. I decided that.
Okay. I don't think it's true. All right, guys. Good show. See you. Thanks for coming on, Thomas.
So yeah, thank you.